These freaking Asweepes are driving me nuts. I want to be done. I just want to be done so I could drive a trawler out to the Pacific Ocean and just be done for a hot minute. But no, Congress needs to get their butts kicked because I'm sick and tired of this. This is ridiculous, folks. Oh, okay, let me try to chill down here for a moment and get the news, because we have news on the stimulus update. Yes, we have news from Miss Nancy Pelosi, who has responded to Republicans. And I think most of y'all can only imagine Nancy Pelosi's response, because while she's Nancy Pelosi and she hasn't talked to Donald Trump in over a year now, and well, if that's not a signal to you as to what's to come, well, let me just say, get your life insurance in as little as 5 minutes and 2 free stocks with Webull, which you could get when you deposit up to $100, because folks, I'm just pissed. I'm so pissed. Look at this, folks. Dear colleague, update on COVID relief negotiations and the administration's insufficient proposal. You gotta be kidding me. They came up to 1.9. You're at 2.2. We're so close. Like Nancy Pelosi, if you just matched what they came up, we would have a deal by going down that same amount. But no. On Friday, the Trump administration returned to the table with a proposal that attempted to address some of the concerns that Democrats have in COVID relief negotiations. This proposal amounted to 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I mean, this is like just throw cold water on everything. Well, anyway, when the president talks about wanting a bigger package, his proposal appears to mean he wants more money at his discretion to grant or withhold, rather than agreeing on language prescribing how we honor our heroes, crush the virus, and put money into the pockets of people. At this point, we still have disagreement on many priorities, and Democrats are awaiting language from the administration on several provisions. So what they got, the language was insufficient, and they're still waiting on more language. Nancy Pelosi's really into language, and she gives us an example here, which I'll show you in just a moment. But at the same time, she's still complaining over the overall funding amount. The key concern is the absence of any response on a strategic plan to crush the virus. Let me just tell you exactly what's going on here, which y'all probably already know. It's politics, baby. This right here is an example of what the HEROES Act put together. This is their version of a plan to ensure a safe and effective COVID vaccine. Right here and highlighted in green, this is, I think, one of the big things that pisses people like Trump off. Because let me just first say this. For Trump to get elected, what do you think we need? In my opinion, and this is totally apolitical here. In order for Trump to get elected, we need 3 things by Election Day. And I think most votes are going to come down to Election Day. I know a lot of people are voting early. I know more people than usual are voting early. But let's be real, it's Election Day. On Election Day, what we need for Trump to get elected is some kind of approved treatment or vaccine. So that's one thing. Then we need a high stock market and a big fat stimulus package. If he gets stimulus, strong stock market, and some kind of approved treatment or vaccine for COVID, that's going to make people potentially euphoric. Now, again, not saying. I mean, obviously the polls have Biden farly in the lead, or a lot in the lead, whatever. Point is, those are 3 things that I think at least Trump is thinking of. This is what I need to win. But let's go back to this. The safety monitoring standards, including emergency use authorization guidance, make it clear that an emergency use request must basically be more closely evaluated to ensure risks have been uncovered and mitigated. The standards for an emergency use authorization are less stringent than the standards for approval, making safety data even more important. This is, I think, where it's coming down to is Nancy Pelosi wants a really, really tight leash on what the rules and protocols are for a vaccine and for any kind of emergency use authorization, which Trump keeps saying, Regeneron, gotta get me some Regeneron, and I want to get an emergency use authorization for it. I can't even speak anymore today. Anyway, it's this kind of language that Nancy Pelosi wants that I believe is what's partially holding up Republicans. So on one hand, you have Trump saying, fine, we'll come up, we'll give more money to kids, we'll give more money to people. But the language is kind of hurting because there's no way these things are going to happen before the election. Going back to the letter here, we see that From start to finish, the Trump administration refuses to honor our heroes. Okay, we've heard this like a million times before. We're urging the administration to support our strong OSHA language. So this has to do with liability protections. Anytime you hear OSHA, think worker safety. OSHA is the Occupational Safety Hazards Administration. And basically, Nancy Pelosi says, look, if we're going to have liability provisions for businesses, which we've already read the liability provisions on this channel, they are tough. Like, they're so tough, you basically can't sue a company. And if you sue a company, you could only sue a company because you got COVID for actual losses that you have. So let's say you couldn't work for 2 weeks and you lost, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000 or whatever. That's what you could sue the company for. But that's not even going to pay for an attorney for you. Now, you could get damages for pain and suffering, but only equal to the amount of money that you actually lost. So, okay, cool, double that, $4,000 to $6,000. You can't even get a retainer filed with a good attorney for $4,000 to $6,000. So basically, when she says that the liability provision is reckless, I don't want to necessarily say it's reckless, but I will say what Republicans are proposing is almost immunity for businesses when it comes to liability protections. And don't get me wrong, like as a business, I think about that too. Somebody walks into my rental and they're like, I got COVID, I'm suing for $500,000 or whatever. It's something to think of. Like there are real liability concerns that businesses have. Something will obviously come on liability protections though. But anyway, the OSHA language is something that Nancy Pelosi is seeking, but that waters down that immunity for businesses. Anyway, then Nancy Pelosi says Nancy Pelosi wants a total of $9,890 in a combination of relief for earned income tax credits. Oops, let's scroll past this here. And the child tax credit, but the Trump proposal eliminates that. She wants up to $5,920 in earned income tax credits based on earnings in 2019 if you lost your income in 2020 entirely. So that would be sort of an additional amount if you lost your money or your income in 2020. The child tax credit, child dependent care credit, fully refundable $4,000 for 2 children, equaling to an additional $1,200 in refund. Trump proposal eliminate this. Child care, Democrats want $57 billion, and Donald Trump has not moved off the $25 billion. On unemployment, she's saying here the Trump proposal takes $200 billion off the table. Basically, the Republicans want $400. She wants $600. That's how you get to that difference of $200 billion, approximately. So that's it. These and other issues are unresolved, and they affect people's lives, livelihoods, so on and so forth. Updates will continue to be ongoing. I'm sick of hearing updates because these updates are garbage. Like, this just sucks. But let's take a look here and try to chart and look at a flow chart so we can kind of see exactly what we're up against. A lot of you like the flow chart. So I put the negotiation on a flow chart here. Take a look at this. So this is where the negotiation remains right now, just so you have a clear picture of this. We've got a difference of $300 billion here in top line figure. Then we've got, which I'm going to give you an update on Mnuchin and Mark Meadows and Republicans in just a moment. But even at 1.9, we're $300 billion apart. We've got Republicans, this should really be in red. Republicans here want $1,000 per child for stimulus checks. Democrats are at the original $500 per child. But this is really to offset the fact that they're saying no to all those credits, which credits are a little bit more complicated to understand. So, and honestly, I think Trump just wants a bigger number on the check, which, I mean, realistically, if we were president, we probably would want that too. It simplifies things. And hey, bigger number on a check with your name on it. State and local governments, $300 billion that Republicans are willing to give, and Democrats are at $417 still. Unemployment, Republicans are at $400 a week, and more time than the Republicans' first offer, but less than the $600 per week that Democrats want. You could pause there to see the dates. They've agreed on the $75 billion for testing, tracing, and a vaccine, but not the language. And remember, those restrictions are something that I think makes Donald Trump have a sad emoji face. Democrats, these are some of the credits that we talked about. I wrote those out here. Republicans are replacing that with a bigger child tax or a bigger child stimulus check. Childcare, Republicans want $25 billion. Democrats are at $57 billion. $400 billion, remember, is coming from the CARES Act. And then what we did not notice so far from Mnuchin or Pelosi as being talked about, which is actually a good thing, so I put it in green in terms of things that are not being talked about. I'll start at the bottom. Restaurants, airlines, okay, if they're going to be in this, great. The stimulus checks overall, the $1,200, great. So no contention here, right? Housing and rental aid, that doesn't seem to be coming up as an issue. And then I know these are Democratic priorities. That's why I'm kind of saying them last here. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be a big issue about these. Otherwise, Nancy Pelosi would have complained about those in her letter. The SALT tax deductions being eliminating that cap, and cannabis. So then I want to give you an update here on Mnuchin and Meadows. Here's the scoop. Mnuchin and Meadows this morning shared a phone call with senior Republicans in the Senate. And basically the Republicans in the Senate heard the $1.9 trillion figure. And the Republicans in the Senate almost fell out of their chairs and are like, hell no. Yeah. So that's what I'm hearing from White House reporters now. Which is not good because Donald Trump wants to go higher, but Mnuchin and Meadows are like, oh my gosh, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place because we don't know if we can get the 13 votes we need, which remember, they just need 13 Republican votes. That's it in the Senate. There are 53 Republicans. So literally you could have 40 Republicans in the Senate say no to this deal and you're good. We already know that Ted Cruz is open to it. We know that a few other senators are open to it. We know that Mitch McConnell says he'll vote with the majority, which I'm not sure if he just means like with everyone, like he'll vote with the Democrat majority and the Republicans who switch, or if he'll vote with his majority. It's just such a disaster. I can only laugh because it's so ridiculous. It makes me want to cry. On COVID. Case counts we are up to 58,375 for the last day. And folks, bad news, more bad news. Just search trends are trending up. And this is the first time they've trended up since July. I'm going to make a separate video on that. I can't put any more in this video. Thank you folks for watching. We'll see you next time.